and I journeyed to Barbuda this afternoon. Absolutely devastating.
Do not sit and wait for this storm to come. It is extremely dangerous and deadly and will cause devastation.
It is just a total devastation. I mean, Barbuda right now is literally a rubble.
It is time now for the big picture, and the big picture actually has three hurricanes: Katia, Irma, and Jose. We have not had three hurricanes in the Atlantic Basin for the last 7 years. And by the way, Katia, Mexico for you. Irma, we of course know Jose could be affecting the Lesser Antilles and then loop around and potentially have its eye in Florida. Still 10 days out, so that forecast can change dramatically. What is not going to change dramatically is what's happening with Irma. It is headed right towards the Turks and Caicos, and then it's going to make its way to the Bahamas. Where exactly it sets up for the state of Florida is still unknown. And I know everyone wants an answer right now. The reality is we are not going to be able to give it to you, I would say, you know, for another day, day and a half.
Doesn't matter. If you're not preparing for a major hurricane landfall, I think that's a foolish mistake. The other thing, too, you'll notice that we don't quite have the symmetry that we had with this, but the core is still very, very much intact. That's why you still have a Cat 5. That's why you still have 180 miles per hour.
All right, so let's show you the awe and the majesty of Irma, because it's not just powerful in wind speed, but also in size.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. The tropical storm force winds are what now? 175 on the left side, 150 on the right. Add those two together, that's the width of just the tropical storm force wind field. Steph, you go out to the cloud canopy and you're about 1,000 miles with this thing.
Yeah, I mean, it is massive. This thing is huge. Listen, a lot of people want to do the Andrew and the Katrina comparisons and all that. Andrew was a very small storm in size, relatively speaking here. We are dealing with winds at 180 miles an hour. Of course, very warm waters coming in here. And these islands, obviously, they're not, you know, huge like the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and Cuba here, but can it disrupt it a little bit? I mean, there's some of these teeny tiny islands. We're going to watch the path very closely here. We do anticipate the wind speed to come down a little bit as it is making its way towards Florida. But, you know, we're talking borderline Cat 4, Cat 5 right now with intensity coming into Florida or near Florida. 45 consecutive hours here with winds of 180 miles per hour. That is just annihilating the old record of Allen at 18 hours. So let's talk about those winds. Jim mentioned the distance of the tropical storm force winds and the hurricanes here. Out from the center, hurricane force winds going out 50 miles. So, of course, there are warnings and watches. And here is the eye. Now, the eye is calm. It's the eye wall where you have those strongest winds. And by the way, these outer bands, tornadoes are going to be a threat as well. Surge is going to be a threat as well, because this storm has been sitting in the water. So it's had time to build up those waves, build up that surf, and it all propagates out. I mean, Turks and Caicos, we are thinking of you guys there. Look at this. We actually had to add another color to our legend because we could see waves 40 feet, and that is all going to be making its way through the Bahamas. Jen now progresses the story further.
All right, so let's continue to watch what folks are doing in Florida to race to completion their preparations for Irma. Now, that means boarding up your homes and your businesses and also stocking up on supplies, food, water, other essentials. People are streaming out of South Florida, finding themselves at a standstill on I-75 on Wednesday, and the rush to evacuate setting off a panic buying for gas, leaving many pumps across Florida dry. And what was the stat now, Steph? You said 40%?
Of gas, yeah, I just was following, I follow the guy Gas Buddy, and he was saying there is gas that's coming in. He's actually going to get on a conference call, but he said in Miami, 40% are out, and also West Palm, 42% are out right now. But hopefully they're trying to get gas in.
Gas in, all right.
Gotta get it in.
Let's talk about impacts and timing, right, Jim? Because, you know, today, tomorrow is your day to finish preparations.
Yeah, and Stephanie gave me something that kind of alluded to where I want to go with this whole cone thing. When she mentioned Andrew, all right? So you've got a similar hurricane threatening South Florida, a similar hurricane, all right? Maybe not Cat 5, but certainly high-end Cat 4. And the difference is Andrew had a 25-mile wide hurricane force wind field on both sides of the eye. This thing has a 50-mile wide hurricane force wind field. So coming in center point in South Florida, Abrams, what was that distance between Miami and Naples? About 100 miles?
It's about 100 miles, Alligator Alley, which is Fort Lauderdale to Naples.
So the point there is you've got now both sides touched by that coming in versus. So it's twice as big, essentially, with the hurricane force wind field as Andrew was. So, guys, again, with this track, again, a lot of uncertainty as to exactly where it goes. But I want you to prepare for a landfalling major hurricane in South Florida. There's just too much that that leads this to happening than there is not. And that's why I want to go with that. The other thing, too, is because the upper low is hanging back here, some of this path may be really interesting. But it's going to kind of slingshot a weakening hurricane up into Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. And now you start getting into all sorts of issues with inland wind. We've got very well-nourished trees. We've had a lot of rain this summer. Leaves are all over these trees still at this time of the year. Pine, some softwoods, some hardwoods, but you can have massive tree damage. And this may be even as far west as Atlanta. So we have to watch this. Impacts beyond just the landfall will extend well in. Stephanie, over to you.
All right. We certainly appreciate that. So meteorologist Mike Seidel is joining us from Miami Beach to talk about the preparations there. And Mike, you know, back in the day, a lot of people used tape. I hope that we've been able to squash that. Have you seen any tape on windows? And of course, we don't want to use candles either.